What a way to end the week for Bitcoin. You can see this daily candle for Bitcoin. We have around 35 minutes left of this current daily candle right below this 20-day moving average. It's a really nice way to end the week. If we go look at the weekly chart, you can see that weekly green candle so close to turning green. I don't know if it's going to get there in the next 35 minutes, but a really nice upward momentum type of candle, a lot of buying pressure to end the week, as we can see on the daily. But I want to break down exactly what to watch for. Is this bullish move on this daily chart, the bullish confirmation alone, or is there something more that we need to wait for? Is this potentially a fake out? That's what I want to break down in this video. So hit the subscribe, hit the like as we begin this new week for Bitcoin and crypto markets, and let's jump into the video. So that's the move on the daily chart. It is a nice move, but probably the premise of the video is the 20-day moving average that Bitcoin is testing right there, and it's a big one. That's a very big area that we need to watch as Bitcoin just contends with, right? And really the bulls and the bears kind of fighting in this general area. I want to break down the short-term charts. There's an inverse head and shoulders I want to break down in the last half of the video, kind of talk about target to the upside and how this really could play into the actual bullish confirmation we're waiting for. But before we dive into the really zoomed in charts, I want to go over to the weekly and just point something out, because this is something that just on my mind, when I zoom out on the Bitcoin charts, it is a big deal to me. That is to say, the continued consistency of where Bitcoin is. Just look at this red weekly candle that we're getting. Look at the similarity of the current weekly candle that's about to close and basically almost the same exact moment last cycle, just hovering above the bull market doors. Look at this similar Bitcoin candle. And if we look at the Bitcoin momentum oscillator on the weekly chart, we can even see Bitcoin at a very similar area at that moment to where it is right now, right? So the question will be, will we get continuation after this week? And that's something that we'll monitor on the short term. But as we dig into the charts, here's what I want to really talk about. The caution that I think is needed here. It's a nice daily move for Bitcoin. Maybe we're thinking we're going to have a green week, and maybe we will. But there are some things I think we should keep an eye on. I want to just take a clip from a couple days ago really quickly from a video I did. Check it out. But in general, I'm watching this range of support. The 50-day moving average will continue to move up towards Bitcoin, eventually be above the bull market door, the top of the bull market doors. And I'm just watching. Maybe Bitcoin gets support right here at the 20. Maybe it dips a little bit into the range, right? But that's the general range I'm watching for Bitcoin. Currently, so you can see now, if we go look at the chart, the 50-day moving average in blue is above the bull market door range, and Bitcoin has fallen into this range. This is a great consolidation range for a bull market. At the time, Bitcoin's around $67,000. You can see, as I do the video, Bitcoin is still $67,000, but we've gone through the move, right? We've gone through the dip, which is down to around $60,000, just below $61,000. So did the video somewhere back here, I guess it would be, right? And I guess that wasn't a couple days ago. That was 8 days ago. Did the video back there. We got the dip. We're in the range, and now we're pulling back into the 20-day moving average, and we're wondering, are we going to go higher? So a couple things I want to talk about in that regard. If we zoom out as we start this new week, I want to show you a move, and this is just typical of Bitcoin. There's a silver lining to this, but this move back here, this was basically back in April, mid-April for Bitcoin. You can see Bitcoin a little bit overheated or just starting to get overbought, but barely on the momentum oscillator. But what I'm looking at really is Bitcoin falling at the time, falling through that 20-day moving average, and then pulling right back up to the 20-day moving average. So we fell through the 20, and then it pulls back into the 20. It looked like a really nice move off the 50, just a really nice bounce off the 50, and then we're going back up. But look how Bitcoin, look at the struggle, look at the lack of separation, the explosiveness of Bitcoin. We didn't get it, and it just ended up being a lower high, and that's the story. It's the lower high story that is always, I think, the best resource for some type of bullish or bearish confirmation. And what I mean by that is this. Swing high to that swing low, we say, okay, is Bitcoin going to break above that 20-day moving average? And then it does, right? You can see Bitcoin breaking above the 20-day. It's looking good, but the whole move failed, and Bitcoin actually went lower. And that's the concern right now. That's what I want to talk about that could potentially be setting up right now. But what can we look for? Well, if you notice, we have this lower high range. This is a lower high Fibonacci on a shorter term type of move. It's at the time it was 786, around $30,000 or so, down to the 618 around 29,000. That was the move. That's the lower high resistance Bitcoin failed at, just above the 20-day moving average. Now, if we go to the move now, we see just a very similar type of vibe, right? We know Bitcoin was absolutely hovering and overbought, right? We even had a little bit of a bearish divergence right here. The lower high on the RSI right here, and then the higher high on price chart is bearish divergence. Bitcoin fell out of overbought. It's exactly what we wanted to see. What we were monitoring to happen happened, and that is Bitcoin cooled down. But now we're at this very similar move. That is to say, all right, we're getting the pullback to the 20. Are we out of the woods, right? And right now it's a nice power move to end the week. A half hour left on the weekly candle and end this daily candle. Maybe Bitcoin even opens the next daily candle just above the 20-day. And then we're like, wham, we're above the 20-day. Things are looking really good. Here's the lower high Fibonacci. This is the lower high Fibonacci on the daily. Swing high to swing low, exactly like that other move back in April. And we have this range of resistance above the 20, 68,700 or so to around 70,900. That is a range of resistance for Bitcoin. Maybe Bitcoin does pop above the 20-day. And we don't get perfect resistance there to go lower. The question will be, if it gets above, what's happening at this range? Can Bitcoin close daily candles above that range? That could be a very bullish move for Bitcoin, because then we can start really looking at the 20-day acting as support. If Bitcoin starts getting that much separation above the 20-day through those Fibonacci retracement resistance levels, then we start looking at the 20-day as a support area. Right now it's resistance. And it's this grappling area for Bitcoin, all in there. The 20-day right to the lower high Fibonacci is a big resistance area for Bitcoin. There is a case where Bitcoin does what it did in April. Maybe it's resistance now. Maybe it's within the Fibonacci, sideways a little bit, faking everybody out. And then we actually put in the final low, a more strong type of move to the downside. Maybe we need to meet the 50-day somewhere to touch that. Again, going to who knows where, right? The lower 60s. Maybe it's a quick move and we're really getting to that 50-day moving average sooner than later. Maybe it's drawn out and the 50-day moving average is up towards 62,000 and that's being tested. Maybe that doesn't hold and Bitcoin tests the top of the bull market doors. This would be a move that makes sense. Here's the bull market doors, that Fibonacci retracement on the macro that we talk about so often. You see these rectangles around the time of Bitcoin having this trigger indicator for the bull market, the parabolic stage of the Bitcoin and crypto bull market. Maybe we test that. But the story really does all kind of start here. What's happening at this resistance area? It's nice to see Bitcoin put in a nice daily candle to close the week, of course, but that's not the bullish confirmation that I'm personally waiting for. We've fallen into the range. Now I want to see Bitcoin explode out of it to the upside. And that means breaking these shorter term resistance areas. We go and we start zooming into the chart. Here's the 4-hour. I did a video. This is a video from a couple of days ago that I did. I was talking about this post from the Wolf of Wall Streets. He was kind of joking, saying, prepare for inverse head and shoulders post across your timeline, because there was an inverse head and shoulders setting up. And it is funny, but it's true. There's this inverse head and shoulders here on the 4-hour. You can see it. And what I just want to point out is, since doing the video and talking about it, you can see Bitcoin has pretty clearly broken this neckline area, right? And especially with this current 4-hour candle that's in play right now. So there's a couple things happening. There's our Fibonacci resistance that we just talked about on the Bitcoin daily chart. That's the resistance area. We know when we break out of patterns, and here's the inverse head and shoulders, there is always so much of a strong case for a retracement. In this case, it would be a throwback to test the trend line, right? So there could be resistance at this Fibonacci. This Fibonacci, we just saw it on the daily, but here's what it looks like on the 4-hour, just above 70,000, down to around $68,000 to $69,000. It's a very big resistance area. Remember, Bitcoin right around the 50-day moving average right now. We can see it, the 20-day in green, that's that resistance. And there's that Fibonacci just above. The inverse head and shoulders could be a good guide from a pattern perspective to say, hey, if we're breaking through the Fibonacci doors, what's the target? Well, the target out of that range is a shorter term target, $76,000, $77,000. That's the target of the inverse head and shoulders to the upside. But again, if there's resistance at these Fibonacci retracement resistance levels, here's what's cool. We get the resistance, at least in the short term, we have this neckline from the inverse head and shoulders in play, where maybe we get a typical throwback to the pattern itself, back down to 65,000. That's if Bitcoin makes the run to the Fibonacci and we see resistance, and then Bitcoin's making the way up to the target, to the upside, right? So a little bit of faking out. This is the type of thing that could take a week to play out. But this is kind of what I'm watching this week. You know, how does Bitcoin interact with the neckline on the shorter term? How does Bitcoin interact with the 20-day moving average when we get a new candle opening? I'm going to be uploading this video, and then probably as I'm posting it, we're getting a new daily open, right? And we're going to see how's Bitcoin interacting with this 20-day moving average, currently right above Bitcoin around $67,600 or so. Resistance, or is Bitcoin putting in a new daily candle that's starting to go up into this Fibonacci resistance? I would say the main boss in this resistance story that Bitcoin is in. But that's just what I'm watching in the short term as we start this week. But all the while, I think it's cool that right now, Bitcoin and everything that's doing it from a bullish perspective, it's happening way earlier this cycle. There's room for retracement, even if Bitcoin's going to put in another red weekly candle this week. There's room to the downside for a retracement to the bull market doors, right? This is type of thing that we saw all the way back here in 2017. Bitcoin had a really big retracement to the bull market doors before going higher, down to that 20-week moving average, right? The 20-week moving average currently for Bitcoin all the way down in the upper 40s. So maybe Bitcoin needs to pull into that 20-week moving average toward the upper end of the bull market doors. There's so many different things that could be in play. I think Bitcoin is so on pace right now, and this is kind of just bringing it all together from a short-term perspective as well as a macro perspective. So this is what I'm watching as we begin this new week. Let me know what you're thinking out there. I hope you're having I hope you had a good weekend and a good start to your week so far. Hit the subscribe, hit that like. I will see you in the next video. God bless.